The rain came down like nails on a tin roof, and Nash Callahan felt every one of them hit his leather jacket as he eased the throttle back. His headlight cut through the gray sheets of light, and for 1 second, his whole world narrowed down to a small shape standing dead center in his lane. He hit the brakes hard. The road King's back tire fishtailed on the wet asphalt, and for a heartbeat Nash thought he was going down. He leaned into it, fought the bike with his knees and his gut, and the machine groaned to a stop just a few feet from the figure standing there. A kid, just a kid, wrapped head to toe in a black trash bag, the kind you'd use for yard waste, with silver duct tape wound around her middle and her ankles like someone had tried to mummify her and given up halfway through. Her hair was soaked flat against her face. Rain ran down in rivers over her cheeks, and Nash couldn't tell if she was crying or if it was just the storm doing it. Behind him, he heard the rumble of 11 more engines slowly stop. His brothers. The Iron Wardens, all of them soaked through, all of them confused, all of them watching their president sit there on his bike, staring down a half-frozen child standing in the middle of Route 9 like she'd been waiting for him. Ivy, he said later they'd learn her name, but right now she was just a girl, a small shivering shape with eyes that didn't match her size. They were old eyes, tired eyes that had seen things no 14-year-old should ever see. Nash killed his engine. The silence after that roar felt strange, wrong almost, filled only by rain hammering the road and his own heartbeat thudding in his ears. Hey, he said, keeping his voice low, the same voice he used to talk men down off rooftops back when he wore a different uniform. You okay? The girl didn't answer right away. Her hands were shaking. He could see that even through the plastic wrapped around her arms. Her lips were blue at the edges. She'd been out here a while, he realized. Maybe hours. Don't go under the bridge, she said. Her voice cracked on the last word, but it didn't waver. There was something in the way she said it, flat and certain, like she was reading off a warning label. Nash frowned. Behind him, he heard tanks like creak as the big man shifted his weight, probably reaching for the shotgun he kept strapped along his frame. What's under the bridge, kid? Cables, she said. Steel cables. They strung them across the road, neck height, both lanes. There's men in the trees, too. Watching. They've been there since before dark. For a second, nobody moved. Rain kept falling. Somewhere off in the woods, an owl called out, and the sound seemed to cut right through Nash's chest. He'd heard a lot of things in his life. Threats, lies, desperate stories from desperate people trying to survive one more night. He'd learned to read faces the hard way, in rooms where reading wrong got people killed. And this girl, standing there soaked and shaking and wrapped in garbage bags like she was something to be thrown away, wasn't lying. Boone tank with me, Nash said, swinging off his bike. Rest of you kill your lights now. The engines went dark one by one, and the night swallowed them whole. Nash walked forward into the black mouth of the underpass, his boots splashing through puddles, his heart hammering against his ribs in a way it hadn't in years. He kept low, kept his flashlight off, let his eyes adjust to the dark the way he'd been trained to a lifetime ago. And then he saw it, a glint, just a thread of moonlight catching on something thin and silver, strung tight across the road at exactly the height of a man's throat on a motorcycle going 70 miles an hour. His stomach dropped straight through the road. Tank, he whispered. Cutters now. Behind him, Boone had already faded into the tree line on the left, moving slow, moving quiet, the way he used to move through jungle a long time ago in a war nobody talked about anymore. Nash didn't ask how Boone knew where to look. Some things you just felt in your bones. Tank came up beside him, breathing heavy, a pair of bolt cutters in his huge hands. Nash held up 2 fingers, 2 cables, one for each lane. They worked in silence. Every snip of the cutters sounded like a gunshot in Nash's ears, but nothing happened. No shots. No muzzle flashes from the trees. Just rain and the slow, careful work of men who knew that one wrong move out here meant somebody wasn't going home tonight. When the second cable fell, coiling onto the wet asphalt like a dead snake, Nash finally let himself breathe. He turned back toward the girl. She hadn't moved an inch, just stood there in the rain, watching him with those waiting to see what he'd do now that she told him the truth. Nash walked back to her, peeled off his soaked leather jacket, and wrapped it around her shoulders. It swallowed her whole, hung past her knees, but she stopped shaking quite so hard the second it settled in. "What's your name?" he asked again, gently this time. "Ivy." "Okay, Ivy." He crouched down so they were eye level, rain dripping off his nose. "You just saved a lot of lives tonight. You understand that?" She didn't answer, just stared at him like she was trying to figure out if he was real. Nash made his decision right there, the kind of decision that didn't come from his head, but from somewhere lower, somewhere older. He scooped her up like she weighed nothing, because she practically did, and carried her to his body. He sat her down in front of him, between his arms, and felt her tiny body trembling against his chest. "Hold on," he said. "We're getting you somewhere warm." The engines roared back to life, headlights cutting on one after another, and the pack rolled forward through the underpass, past the spot where two steel cables now lay harmless and dripping in the air. Nash felt Ivy's small hands grip his forearms, holding on tight, like she'd never held onto anything safe before. Up on the ridge above the highway, parked in the shadows beneath a stand of dead trees, a black SUV sat with its engine off and its lights dark. Inside, a man lowered a pair of night vision binoculars and watched 12 sets of taillights disappear into the rain, untouched, unharmed, gone. He picked up a phone and pressed it to his ear. "They got through," he said quietly. "All of them, the girls with them now." On the other end, a long silence stretched out, heavy as the storm outside. "Then it begins," the voice finally said. "Watch them, don't move yet." The phone went dark, and out there in the rain, 12 motorcycles carried a girl in a trash bag toward a future none of them could see coming. The clubhouse smelled like coffee and gun oil and wet light. And for a second, when Nash carried Ivy through the door, every conversation in the room just stopped. 12 bikers walked in soaked to the bone, and the whole place went quiet except for the rain still drumming on the metal roof. Then Ivy's body went limp in his arms. "Doc, I need Doc now." Nash's voice cracked through the room like a whip. He laid her down on the pool table. Somebody swept the balls and cues off in one motion, and Doc Reyes was there in seconds, kneeling, already pulling gloves from his pocket with hands that had patched up more bullet wounds than Nash could count. But this time, Doc went still. "Nash," he said quietly, "look at her arms." Nash leaned in and his stomach turned over. Under the torn sleeve of her shirt, Ivy's skin was a mess of raised welts and blistered patches, some old and scarred over, some fresh and leaking, running from her wrist all the way up past her elbow. The smell hitting them too, faint but wrong, like bleach and something rotten underneath it. "Chemical burns," Doc said, voice low. "Bad ones. Some of these are weeks old, some are days." He looked up at Nash, and there was something in his eyes Nash hadn't seen since the war. Whoever did this to her, Nash, they didn't care if she lived or died. Ivy's eyes fluttered open for just a second. Her lips moved, barely a whisper. "My dad," she said. "He has it written down, all of it, in the lining of my bag." Then her eyes rolled back and she was out cold, breathing slow but steady, finally safe enough for her body to just stop. Nash found the bag where it had fallen by the door, soaked through, and his hands shook a little as he worked his fingers along the inside seam. There it was, a flat leather journal, wrapped in 3 layers of plastic, dry as a desert inside. He sat at the long table in the back room with Boone and Tank on either side, a single lamp burning over the pages. The journal belonged to a man named Walter Hayes, Ivy's father, and the handwriting got worse and worse the further they read, like the man writing it was running out of time. Pages of numbers, dates, coordinates, photographs taped in, faded but clear enough, barrels stamped with warning labels, buried in trenches behind a chain-link fence, leaking dark stains into the dirt. "Class 6, Boone said, tapping one of the labels with a thick finger. "That's not fertilizer runoff. That's military-grade toxic waste. Creed's been burying this stuff under his own land for years, right above the water table that feeds half this valley." Near the back of the journal, the handwriting changed. Smaller, tighter, scared. They know I know. If something happens to me, get Ivy out. Don't let them find what I found. The last entry was dated the same week Walter Hayes had supposedly died in a car accident on a dry road, with no other cars involved. Nash closed the journal slow, like it weighed 100 pounds. They killed her father, he said, and then they spent 7 months hunting a 14-year-old girl to bury the evidence with her. Nobody said anything for a long minute. Outside, the rain had finally started to ease off, but something in that room felt heavier than any storm. We find whoever's running Creed's security, Nash said finally, standing up. Tonight. It took less than 4 hours. Tank had a cousin who used to drive trucks for one of Creed's shell companies, and that cousin knew a warehouse out off Route 14, a place where unmarked vans came and went at night, where men who didn't exist on paper got their orders. The iron wardens rolled up without lights, surrounding the building from every side, engines cut, boots hitting gravel soft and quiet. Inside, through a dirty window, Nash could see a man in a tactical vest sitting at a folding table, a radio in front of him, a coffee going cold by his elbow. Nash kicked the door open himself. The man, mid-40s, buzz-cut, the kind of face that had given a lot of orders and taken very few, went for his side. But Tank was faster, slamming him back against the wall before his hand even cleared the holster. Sit, Nash said, voice flat and cold as the rain outside. The man sat. Nash placed the journal on the table between them, open to the page with the photographs. Then he set down a second item, a small, worn photograph of a man and a young girl standing in front of a little blue house, both of them laughing at the camera. Walter and Ivy, years ago, before any of this. Her name's Ivy, Nash said. Her father's name was Walter Hayes. You're going to tell me everything. Who ordered the hit on him? Who ordered the hunt for his daughter? And who signed off on dumping that waste into the Hartley Reservoir? The man's jaw worked for a second, but his eyes kept drifting back to that photograph. Creed gave the order himself, he said, voice shaking. Direct from his estate. Said the girl knew too much, said her father had copies hidden somewhere, said find the bag or find the body, he didn't care much. He swallowed hard. I have the recordings, the orders, all of it. It's on a drive in my truck. Please just don't let your guys. Get the drive, Nash said to him, who was already moving. By the time they walked out of that warehouse, they had it all. Recorded orders in Creed's own voice. Dump site coordinates matching Walter's journal exactly. Wire transfers paying mercenary teams to track down a 14-year-old girl through 7 months of rain and woods and fear. It was enough to bury Bartholomew Creed in a courtroom for the rest of his life. But Nash knew men like Creed. Money like that didn't go to prison. Money like that bought judges, bought juries, bought silence. Walter Hayes had trusted the law once, and the law had got him killed on a dry road with no skid marks. This wasn't going to a courtroom. Not first. Word went out that night, over phones and radios and back roads, to every chapter, every club, every brother who owed the iron wardens a favor across 3 states. By dawn, the road leading up to Bartholomew Creed's estate was a river of steel and chrome, headlights stretching back so far they disappeared around the bend of the mountain. 400 motorcycles, engines idling in the gray morning light, a low rumble that shook the iron gates from half a mile away. Behind those gates, security cameras turned focus. Guards stood frozen at their posts, and somewhere inside that mansion, a man who thought money made him untouchable looked out his window at a wall of motorcycles he could not buy, could not ride, and could not outrun. For Bartholomew Creed, the laws of this country had never once slowed him down. But the laws of the road were about to.